Okay, sorry about the confusion. I took the wrong URL of the people to join. Um, it should be okay now. So just waiting a couple of minutes so people can join, and then we get started with our discussion for today. Um, and here is Michael. Hi, Michael.
Hello.
So, so what I have for today is discussion about our current branch, UBports 5.1. We're also going to discuss forwards after what support after 5.1 we want to support, if we want to skip the 6.0 or we want to support that, skip 6.0 and go directly to 7. Also talking about getting the better logs and better docs, I mean, on how to port and make those as fast as we can. Also talking a little about my newest program, project, Portcraft, and also talk a little bit about tests, how we can test libraries in a really good way, and how to get those logs out from early stages and of a port. And at the end, we can take some questions. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we get started with a current branch that we have on that people can build on. That's build on top on SajaMod. One of the main reasons I created that was to easily port SajaMod devices. And right now it seems to be working fine. It had some bugs that I have been fixing for last week that should be better with the display. It was some screen tearing that was global for the whole branch, not only for the Fairphone. And also there was some other issues with Nexus devices where they did not build the boot images. And right now, at the state it is now, it seems to be working just fine on all my devices. And also we have our build server up and running, thanks to Popey for testing out that that our branch was out of that you couldn't build it. And so now we have build server up and running, so we know that our source is up to date and always is working state. Is something that you guys want to input on that?
The build servers, are these the ones running on DigitalOcean now?
Yes, they're all running on DigitalOcean. I have moved over every server that we have. The only thing I have I have a local server here that does some of the bigger builds, like production builds for our devices. Other than that, everything else is running, our servers is running on DigitalOcean, and thanks very much to DigitalOcean for sponsoring and most of our servers. The next in that, I will talk a little bit about the next after 5.1. I got some questions about maybe supporting 6.0, but what I have planned myself is maybe skipping that and go directly to 7.0. Mainly due because there isn't much difference in those two releases. A pretty minor issue, especially in such low level as we are working on. So,
sorry, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
So, forgive my ignorance here, but if you if you want to have a diverse range of devices that people can port to, does
Yeah.
it make sense that those devices may ship with a BSP for Android 6 or Android 7? So if you targeted Android 6, there might be many more devices that you could port to. But then the flip side is those are slightly older devices because they've already shipped. But then there's more of those around, so more likely that people will have one that they can port to. If you target Android 7, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, Android 7 is not even out for general release yet, is it?
It's out, but only for Nexus devices at the moment.
Right. Will that limit? I mean, will you be able to use that on any device, or will we be limited to only those which have a broad support package?
Um, as I've seen with Sajima, they are really quick to update all their devices to newer releases. As you can see with 13, Sajima 13, nearly every device got updated at the same day on their devices. There are some devices that I have pushed before that I used as a test device, but mostly of them is pretty quick to update. That's mostly due to the community is really active there.
Okay.
Is there any concern with the compatibility with the Ubuntu side of things? Because I know we're just now getting into Android 5. And I expect that we're probably going to target 6 next instead of skipping to 7.
Yeah, I have think about some issues there. Yeah, that's correct. But what I'm mostly thinking about is that most of, especially my devices, all of them run 5.0, and backporting is pretty easy. But back to Ubuntu side of things, libraries is pretty flexible in that way. It has been easy to implement newer releases of Android. I don't know how complex Android 7 will be yet. I haven't really looked into the source yet. But as of 6.0, it's pretty similar. So I do believe it's will be no problem to add new devices, a new version of Android, if that was your question. Yeah. Oh, next and that. So yeah, about that, I do believe if there isn't any demand for 6.0, we probably will skip it. But else than that, if there is demand for it, I will gladly support it too. But as
I guess the main issue is going to be things like Hybris. You know, if there's going to be some requirement for a particular version of Android to be compatible with the version of libhybris that we're using.
yeah, but again, though between 4.4 and 5, there was a big jump there. But as I'm seeing now, Google is kind of stepping down. There isn't that much changing on such a low level, from my understanding. But the jump from 5 and the 4.4 to 5 was big. I can agree with that. So I don't believe it will be much of a problem with libraries further down the road until Google does something new again, like Vulkan support that is coming in 7. Vulkan support is something that might need complete rewrite in Mir again, because it's so different from what they already do now. So yeah, that might make some problems there. Did that answer it?
Yeah, I guess I'm just worried that we're going to, jump ahead of platform team and, not be able to have compatible, the two sides won't be compatible with each other.
Yeah, it's something that has worried me a bit, but we kind of need to support it some someday due to devices, Android devices, specifically Android devices. When they release newer devices, they don't backport it, and that's the main issue. That's example, take the OnePlus X that does not have 4.4 support, like the Fairphone does not have 4.4 support, and that will happen sooner or later to 5.1 devices also. So
are we going to be able to get newer versions of Android on those older devices? Because Adobe and IRC is pointing out that the Nexus 4 doesn't have an Android 6 image, and the Nexus 5 doesn't have one for isn't going to get one for Android 7.
yeah, but that's different again with SolidMod. SolidMod pushes it's much longer than the Google does for their devices. I have seen, like, I have my Samsung Galaxy S3 and it still gets have Android 6 support, and that's like, I don't know, that's older than the Nexus 4, I guess.
Okay. So basically, as long as Cyanogen provides updated OS images for these devices, you'll be able to use that.
Yeah, but also since we already have the 5.1 branch already running, there's no problem staying on that unless something gets added in on the Android on the Ubuntu side that's require a newer thing in Android. But other than that, right now Android 5 will be perfectly fine to use for probably over 3 years from now. If not Ubuntu completely modify something that make those devices unusable.
Okay.
But the point is that I want to skip it is that it is quite a lot of work. And now since Android is kind of pushing updates each year, there will be quite a lot of porting to quite enough of time that goes to porting to a newer branch and maintaining. Then we need to maintain the 5.1, 6, 7, 8. Like if they come as they do now, they have one each year, and that's kind of way too much. If Ubuntu does not need anything newer on the Android side, if that's understandable. Because the Android side of things is working perfectly fine now. There's no need for 6.0 on the Ubuntu side of things. The only thing that might be a problem if there is a device that released with 6.0 right now that does not have 5.1 support, then you need to backport, and backporting is quite a lot of time and task too.
Right, and anything that's released now with 6 will probably get support for 7 from Cyanogen, I would imagine.
Right. And Cyanogen is pretty quick to follow the Android branch, the official Android branch. So I do expect them to be really quickly up with nightlies running on their devices after Google released it.
Well, in that case, then, if you think that it's worth skipping 6 and focusing on 7 already, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I have to see how the demand is for 6.0, but from what I'm seeing now, there is way too much work to do it if there are no devices that require it, because Ubuntu does not require a new version of Android now. But if that's changed, if devices require it, or if Ubuntu requires something newer, sure, that's something that we are waiting for and will upgrade our base then. But right now, as I'm seeing it, and I probably expect Android to release their new. I guess it's now this summer they usually release their new version, and SolidMod will probably pick that up and make it ready to in September probably. So I see that as we now have about half a year until Google probably release their new version of Android. I do believe it will become Nutella or Nougat. That's probably the name for it. And so there's just a half a year, and if there is no device that require it, if Ubuntu does not require it, there is no point of using so much time on it. Is there something else you guys want to add before we go to next thing? The next thing
questions. When do you want to go back and do those?
Oh yeah, I can. I have a Brightman question at the end, but sure, I can take some questions now.
All right. Let's see. So we've got Tesla Cat in here who's asking if you plan to port Ubuntu Touch for Tesla cars. And I'm thinking that that might require a bit more in the way of donations than you've been getting so far.
Yeah, that I don't own a Tesla, but I would love to have one. But I don't expect Ubuntu Touch to a Tesla. But sure, if you want to donate a Tesla, that would be great.
Alright, Tesla Cat's also asking if there's any difference between the official version of Ubuntu Touch that's on the BQ and the Meizu and the version that's used in UB ports for the OnePlus One, for example.
The Android side of things is different, but the Ubuntu Tarball is exactly the same. So everything that is in on a BQ device, for example, without what BQ have preloaded on those devices. But take an example from Mako devices. There is exactly the same Android now Ubuntu rootfs. That's exactly the same. The only thing that is different is the device-specific things like the Android side of things that need to be device-specific and the kernel. Other than that, nothing is different.
Alright, and the last one is, how is Ubuntu running on the OnePlus One? Is it running better than the MX4? To me, Ubuntu runs better on BQ phones, although the hardware is slower.
I don't have a Mercy device, so honestly, I don't know. For me, the device runs really well on the OnePlus One device. Yeah, it runs really well. I guess Popey, does you have both the OnePlus One and Mercy, don't you?
One and the Meizu. No, the Meizu is my Meizu currently looks like this.
Oh.
Because I sat on it. However, I would say the OnePlus One, if I had to rank them in order of how they perform, there's the E4.5, the Meizu, the OnePlus One, and then the Pro 5. But the OnePlus One and Pro 5, the UI feels similarly fast on both of them.
Yeah, I guess the Profile has a bigger processor, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's octa-core.
Yeah.
Faster.
So, yeah, on the OnePlus One is pretty snappy actually. It's the fastest device I have. I do have my OnePlus 2, but it's not nearly as fast as my OnePlus One. I honestly don't know why, but even though the OnePlus 2 have bigger hardware, when they're both running Android, the OnePlus One is still faster. But yeah, did we have more questions, or was that all of them?
That's all for now. If anyone watching this has more questions, just start them with the word question in all caps in the IRC channel, and we will come back around to them.
Yeah. Next topic that we had was I have set up tests, libraries test and test on the Android side. That's something I saw. You linked in me Git from not GitHub for Launchpad, a new test from libraries, and what I was really excited to see that. I was missing test on the library side of things. There is a test that's already there, but it doesn't work on Ubuntu Touch. That's something we easily can test our that are harder without needing to manually go in to test each and every things of them and then go back and debug. We want a test where we can immediately display what part is not working, especially on like this display. There is pretty good test on Mir, for example, and they will display when there is something that is wrong. And I really want to make something like that on the Android side of things too, because then we can get closer on see what if it is on the Android side where the problem lays, or if it Ubuntu, the integration between Ubuntu and Android that is having a problem. So if we Google already have some test that is written for the Android side of things, but they often require more libraries to run because they run on higher level. They usually run on most of them run on Java and then calls back into the system, calls deeper down to the system. But they do have some tests that I will try to implement on. Try to get to one format where it's easier to find them because now they are spread all over the Android project. So might compile a good set of tools to test the Android side, and when we get to test on library side, we can also the interaction between those works. And this is something I have actually been working on it on the Android side for a while. So I do expect to see some tests popping up in some weeks, some months. And also, again, we need to document this clearly in our docs to how people can use those tests and how they can find those logs after those tests and how to handle if something fails. And also, since we touch into the docs side of things, also making the docs perfect makes them much better than they are now. Where to find logs and how to collect those logs and how to go. How can I get the device in that state where the developer can debug it themselves? How do I bring up Android debugger? How do I use the kernel logs? What do I do if the kernel panics and stuff like that? Because there is a good documentation on how to do it on Android, but the Ubuntu kernel, the kernel is the same, but the RAM disk is not the same. It's a little bit different, but pretty much the same. But the RAM disk is pretty different, and explain how the RAM disk work and explain in level from kernel and go upwards and explain how that works. That's something I was missing a year ago when I did the 1+1 port. I usually had to ask on RC, but no problem with asking RC. I'm not saying that, but it's much easier when they have black and white where I can just read it from a doc side. Is there some input you guys want to do on that? Your mic is not working.
Sorry. So I'm taking some notes on the Etherpad as I hear what you're saying. So if you want to augment that, or if anybody following along wants to help me take notes, that would be appreciated.
Yeah. I have it wrote down too, so I can copy paste them in there later.
That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah. Some input. You have Popey on this? Okay. Then we go to the next thing, which is probably the most exciting thing of all. Or we can, if there is there some question first before I continue.
You can't say you've got a really exciting thing and then say let's take questions. You've got to like plow through to the exciting thing.
Okay, since Popey demanded, we go to the next exciting thing, which is Portcraft, which is something I have been working on for a while now, and also my guy Nicky had been working on it too. I didn't see him here, but I thought he would join today. But we have been working on this Portcraft. The name is taken from Snapcraft, as you probably already know. But the Portcraft is essentially what it does. First of all, it sets up your environment, install all tools, all you need, and that. I didn't want to add that function because I kind of thought people will have more control on what a tool installs on the system, but I did. People seems to have no problem with that, so I added that. And also, what it does, there already are sources that is already made for our devices. It also builds those sources much easier. Now you can type one command and it builds the whole 1+1. It builds it and flash it for a 1+1 successfully. What it does, it sets up Android open source project or our source, then downloads everything from it. My phone is ringing. Sorry about that. It also sets up the device config and also downloads the blobs. And it does this with just one command, and that's kind of the goal of it, to make it as easy as possible. To where the point is, if you want to build it yourself, if you want to flash using your own source, you can do this easily with a tool that just does it for you. And also, one of the most exciting things is it starts or kind of builds new project, sets up everything for you for a new project, a new port, and essentially removes everything that is not needed on the Ubuntu side of things that often does so. The build of it, compiling of it doesn't just stops or comes with an error. Remove all that, and it also set the most common things that is required for Ubuntu to. Sorry about that. Just throw it right here in my bedroom. And also, sorry, I got a little bit out of my phone ring. But removes everything that is not needed, like every Java part of the thing, every custom settings that is just for Android, and often these things does so the build itself fails. It sets every kernel config that is needed for Ubuntu Touch to run, and it's kind of, and it's smart enough to know what other devices need and kind of compare them and give suggestion on, for example, if it is a Qualcomm device with the Qualcomm Wi-Fi chips, it gives suggestion on what I did on a 1+1, for example, and gives link to a GitHub page where we have where that commit is pasted, and then you can look at that and see how I did it on that way. And that's something when you use it more, this functionality will be bigger, and it will know better. More devices know how they are built, how things are fixed, and also integrate them with the test that I made to test the part when the first Android starts up, to test what part is missing, and then also again give suggestion on how other ports did it, and also kind of it kind of does like a little helper, I would say, on how to port things, and it's automatically does things like if you want to if you did add it on the Android source, you can run one command and it builds, flash it, and reboot device again. So you don't need to reflash everything. The tool does it for you. For example, if you want to update the Ubuntu side of thing, you can run one command and it reflash the device with a newer image that's on the server. And also it can flash different channels if you want. The stable channel, you can install that with this tool without needing a system image running for that server. Other than that, everything's there is also some other functionality that I want to add. Also add something that probably will be harder for some devices to use is serial. Some devices can run on serial to get much easier logs on your when the kernel is not giving you those in what we call last KMS key. Some devices does not seem to have those logs, and it's really frustrating when you can't get no logs and it doesn't boot at all. So that's also something I want to add, and I don't know how that will work on more locked on devices, but devices like Fairphone seem to have a pretty nice serial thing you can connect to.
How is that exposed? Is that exposed over the USB port or over the network?
No, it's actually
it's like a JTAG port on the back, right?
Yeah, you can see it there.
Gotcha.
And some devices actually does this through. I saw a post. Weirdly, it goes through the headphone jack. I did seem that pretty weird, but it probably is true. But it goes through the headphone jack on some devices. But that's also something that's really device specific, and I don't know if that will work on all devices, especially Samsung devices, which is really locked down.
So is Portcraft available right now for somebody to download and use?
The source is available. I haven't uploaded most of the things that I have said now because right now the code is in pieces. Since it's Python, I use really much of the library function. So everything has a library that's standalone, and I haven't made this into one yet. So you can use if you can make the pieces go together, you can use it now. But I will make this a base of it that branched out to each library as soon as I can. Okay.
The sooner we can make it an easy install through like a PPA or Snappy or something, the better it'll be. Then people can start using it and giving you feedback on it.
Yeah. And also something that that I want Portcraft to do is also be kind of make this system images taraballs, where it can be an easy tool to push newer things to our server, and set up kind of where we can just run one command, push it to our production server if you have your port running on our server. And that's also something I want to add. Because now to push newer images, you kind of have to SSH into our server, and if more people want to push to our server, it might be a problem with too many SSH accounts open. Because each one have different password, and I can't control how secure those passwords are. And other than that, I think I covered most of the Portcraft functionality, but there is a lot more I want to add that I have been looking into. So it might right now some of the things I have said now it's not currently implemented and won't be implemented in the first release. What it does now, it does our source. Everything works with our source, but something that I want to add is support for different devices, support for different sources, like use the official Ubuntu source instead of using only our CyanogenMod base. That is something that I want to add to. With this stuff, that I don't know how well it would work with other sources, especially it might work for newer ports, but I don't know how it will work for existing ports, because we use a dependency file that is in each repo that then so the Portcraft knows which part is required for this device to work. So that's if, for example, if we want to build a Mako device on this, then we need to add a dependency file on Ubuntu's Kit server too. But that's also something I can we can probably make a workaround on that if there is not an option to push a new file on their repo. And also something I also want to maybe integrate is integrated it with our device page, where people can then but porters, if they want to push their device to our service, that they can go through our device page and they can edit stuff there themselves, where they have access to their own device. Like I have right now, I have one admin page, but then you have access to all the devices, and if there kind of need to be it need to be some control there, because it's kind of I can't let everyone in on the admin page, if that's understandable, because I have no way to revert back if someone added something that they shouldn't, and so that's what I want to use Portcraft to have a tool that can interact with our site without needing to making a front end. Instead, I can use the Portcraft tool. But that's also something I don't know if that is something that is not something that I have priority on doing, and probably something might not be implemented at all. But that's just idea that I have. Is there something else you guys want to input on that? No. Then I have left on my list is questions. If someone has some questions or input.
Yep. So we've had a couple more. Let's see. Nikki's asking if we should be more concerned about the Muppets Git repository. And Smoose provided some additional detail on where that's being used. So what exactly is UBports using that repository for?
We use that for blobs. I kind of don't want to host the blobs ourselves on our GitHub, the same way as Sajima does it. That's why we use the Muppets GitHub page to then store these blobs. The Muppets is essentially the team of Sajima, as I assume that many people from the Sajima that is those that maintain that. That's why we use that, and I kind of don't want to store blobs because there are much legal things that goes with blobs.
So are these just drivers that are not in the source tree?
Yes, this is, and also it's device configs. That if device specifics is also not device config, but device binary that is a need for hardware specific things that is closed source. And
okay.
Illegally is very gray, as Nikki says. Yes, it is. That's why I don't want to host them myself. That's why we use their repo, because if I have been thinking about maybe ditching the Muppets Git server, but the problem then again is then you need to extract the binary blobs from the device again, and that is also something that's make the porting more hard again. But again, that
and it would
might
be the same binaries, right? At that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
But other than that, I don't see using the Muppets as a problem, because as Sajamod is a company and they use that without any problems. I don't expect a community project to have to get any legal actions on their side of things.
And if anybody has any suggestions for a better way of doing this, we would be open to hearing them. But it sounds like this is, the fact that there are binary drivers only and there's not source for them kind of puts us in this situation where it's this or not be able to get the hardware to run.
Can you repeat that? You just lagged out a bit.
Sorry, I was just saying that when they only provide binary drivers, they kind of put us in this situation where our choices are either to copy the binary drivers or to not get the hardware running.
Yeah, and that's also a big problem with binary, is that I don't know all the legal things of side with binary, but I don't know how are we allowed to ship it on our server like we does now with system image. That's also something that concerns me. That's allowed, and that's why I usually just stay away from binary blobs as much as I can. But as you said, there is required to have binary blobs for a device to work. Either it works or either it's not working. So, and that is also something that is some problem whether that we need to maybe discuss later and see. I don't know who to ask, who knows about this, because as I'm seeing in the Android community, everyone seems to just ship them and download them, having them on their own server. So it doesn't seem like Qualcomm, for example, is kind of. I don't think they would set a legal action on a community project. That's what I'm trying to say. Because mostly of the community is usually working hard on their devices on just for fun or for does it for the community. So I don't think it will be a problem as we have it now, but later it might be.
Yeah, I think generally if there's not a commercial aspect to it, they're not going to care very much. And a lot of them actually have specific sorry about that.
No
I
problem.
know some of them specify that it's legal to use them for non-commercial stuff. They provide a license grant for that. So yeah, we'll leave that how it is, and if we can find a better way, we'll use that. But we're running out of time, so moving on to the next question from Tesla Cat, who asks, do you have any stats on UB ports? What port is the most popular, or how many people install Ubuntu?
I don't have any stat because I kind of feel that way. I don't want to collect stats because it feels like spying on people, and I really don't like doing that. So the only thing I can see is the donation. That's the most thing, and also some of the polls that I make on what their favorite devices is, and those are the OnePlus One is on the number one. And soon after that is the Fairphone, and then the other devices fall after that. The Nexus 5 is also a popular device, but I don't have much track of that because that's an existing port, so I don't have much stats on that. And stuff like I don't use Google Analytics or any analytics on my page, so I have no idea of seeing how much user it is. And on the server, I had disabled all logs, so I have no way of seeing how many users
So
there
you
are.
don't even have like HTTP logs showing downloads or anything like that?
No. And that was also something because myself, I'm maybe kind of paranoid about being tracked sometimes, and then I don't want to track my users again because that kind of conflicts with my how I see tracking, and but I still use Google, so I probably tracked every day. So, but
Okay. Our last question is from Nils at Smoose. And he's asking, besides the Muppet Git, aren't vendor blobs in general a problem in the process of porting to Ubuntu Touch, no matter where they're coming from? So have you run into problems with having to include binary blobs?
yeah, there is huge problem with blobs. That's kind of the biggest blocks with porting because you have no way to see how they work, how to fix them, and how you can integrate them in a good way. So usually when there is some problem on the Android side of things, they usually it's because of the blobs, because they are so different from each device, and you need to customize them to work with Ubuntu Touch in some way. So binary blobs is terrible. I wish there was a fully open source phone that was out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not the world we live in today.
No, but maybe in the future, I have seen Qualcomm seems to be opening up more, and also MediaTek is opening up more than they did before. So I don't know if it is a step forward or what it is.
Yeah, I think the market pressure is towards opening up more. So I think over the long run, we will probably get there, but it might take us a while.
Yeah, and also again, that's also the main reason why I cannot port Windows phones and iPhones, because there are no way to see how they work. There's no way to make something work on top of them. So yeah.
All right. Well, we're out of questions and just about out of time, so that worked out really well.
Yeah, that worked perfectly.
Anything you want to close with, Marius?
No, I think I covered most of it. I just want to say sorry for all the confusion at the start there, and sorry for my phone. I'm a busy person. That's
All right. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you've done with porting UB ports and now Portcraft as well. You're really pushing the state of Ubuntu's portability to different devices. So great job on that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining, and thank you for helping out.
No problem. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.